Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you a tutorial on armor, and that's why it's already all there. The body is already there, because you didn't need to see that step, because we're going to be focusing purely on the most, actually in this case you can consider it clothing. I don't know what else you'd really think of it as. I mean, armor, I guess. You know, it may be armor. Maybe. But in case you want to see this stuff, this is the sketchies, and this is the more finished version. And of course, the way I generally do clothing over the line art is I just get like a different version of the same tool in a different color, and just go through right on top of it. So for this, I'm going to be using red, although I'm going to make it a little bit darker just so it's easier to see. Aha! That did not help whatsoever. I want this to be an easy color to see, guys. Does that work? Yep, that's pretty good to see. So, the first thing you want to consider when you're putting armor on a character is, well, first things first, why do they have armor? Do they just casually wear armor around? If that's the case, then slap whatever you want on it. It's made just for looks. I'm pretty certain someone casually wearing armor around isn't getting into a whole lot of fights. But if they have a good reason to be wearing armor, say they're a war veteran in like medieval times, or if they're going to some type of big fight, then you have to take into a lot of consideration into what the characters should be wearing. For starters, how does the armor actually attach to the body? So, I mean, say I just have a square. Assume it's just like a plate of metal. You know, just a plate of metal. Bam. Alright, we're gonna make this bigger. It's like a huge plate of metal. Yeah. Plate of metal. Sweet. Plate of metal protecting your arm. That's great. How's it attaching? It's just kind of there. Well, look at that. It fell off. Your armor's useless. You want to have your armor be useful. You want to have it with, say, straps of some type. Maybe, in this case, if it's just a huge piece of metal, they would just have something something like glued to the edges and wrapped around to the sides. So maybe there's like an under armor portion of this, and it's just kind of attached to the top of it, so that will stay on. But if in most cases it wouldn't just be a huge slab of armor. If this was crafted, it would be cut down the middle, bent more around the sides, and it would just have a strap that connects to a under portion of it that would wrap around the arm. Because this piece up here shouldn't be connected to this piece, because then that gets really weird motion restriction at the joints, and I mean, there's nothing you could really do to protect the joint that, say, a sword wouldn't be able to get through and still be able to provide you a lot of protection. I mean, the best you can get is iron mesh. So, how we're going to start this is, we're actually not going to put anything on the head. I kind of just don't want to obstruct the head in this case, and the pose I have going here makes it seem like this person is more so a guardsman or for show rather than for actual usefulness. The armor will still be useful in case that's ever something needed in the future, but for the sakes of this, I'm assuming that it's not. So I'm going to start this off by doing a line down the middle of the body, because armor is generally cut up into lots of different pieces and attached together, because that will get you better form to the body itself and will give you better mobility. And that is something that needs to be considered when you're actually designing armor is, can you move? I mean, armor is great until you can't actually do anything in it. So I'm kind of sectioning out areas. So I have this upper torso here. Then we'll do another one down here where the, I don't know what this is called, it's like thoracic arch or something would be. That's probably not gonna show up underneath in the armor, so I'm just gonna be ignoring that. And then as we keep on going down, it just kind of segments out more and more as we get to areas that have more mobility. So up here, this area isn't going to be moving much, so it's going to be mostly one big piece. In fact, this probably won't be different pieces. This will probably just be one large piece of metal. But for like the shoulder here, I can't just have another piece jutting out and attaching to the arm here. There has to be a shoulder pad, because the shoulder rotates this way, it rotates this way, it does this whole thing, and it rotates around. It needs to be able to move. So what the shoulder is going to be doing is it's just going to have a shoulder pad, or in some cases nothing at all. And the shoulder pad will be kind of large to accommodate the he's a huge muscle, this person had. It'll be kind of large to accommodate the large range of motion that this character would be experiencing with it. And of course, I'm going to be doing the same on the other side, because it's aesthetically pleasing with a bit of a bump to the top, just for points. I won't put anything on this part, because the way armor generally works is you want to protect the important things first. And all the important things are in your chest and in your head. I mean, as much as you may like your arms, pretty certain you can lose an arm and still get away fine in most cases. Well, I say most cases, but you know what I mean. But when it comes to armor and keeping things safe and secure, most of the time you're going to find that it's the chest plate and the helmet that are going to be preferred. Sorry, fashion police, but gloves and boots are not something you're really going to be seeing much of here. Although, actually, you really should have boots, just because you're going to be out and about a lot. Given the context for this character, I'm only going to be giving them forearm pads, arm pads. I said the word earlier, I can't remember what the word was, so we're just going to keep on rolling with it. But I'm not going to give them gloves or anything like that. And then as far as the legs go, I'm going to give him upper legs. I can't speak today, I guess. I'm going to give him armor on the legs up here, but not so much along the bottom. I will give him feet pads, and you'll see that. But other things to consider when you are designing the armor, because I'm kind of throwing this in, I'll be totally honest. I'm going to have some points to it, but I could have this be really ornate and really, really cool looking. But things you need to consider when you're designing the armor is why they're making it. As I said before, this is going to be a little bit more flashy and for show than a real piece of armor would be. And that will come through in the coloring stages rather than in this stage, because I feel like royalty probably would spend more money making it colorful and bright rather than making it really ornate. I mean, of course, there's a lot of royalty that would, yada yada. Different universes, different rules, come on. But if you're designing armor for like an old Viking, you know, covering their body in animal pelts and having them be super buff and with like rawhide leather and things and all that jazz, you don't give them a t-shirt underneath the armor. Like, yeah, that just wouldn't work. They wouldn't have access to that. They wouldn't be wearing a t-shirt. So there would be no point to that. So you have to keep in mind things like that. And of course, I'm having this here. In this case, it would be attached, if you imagine this piece behind it. This would probably be a different piece for most cases, but because there is no bottom part, it would just have a pin behind it, or a couple of pins behind it that you wouldn't see, where it would be attached to this piece of armor here. Pretty straightforward. And of course, I have little spikes here and there, just to kind of have it look a bit better. Because armor is armor, but ugly armor is ugly armor. And plus, if you can add a little bit of flair here and there, it's nice to do so. And you're not going to be taking much more time out of your end drawing, and it's going to look better in the end. It's kind of a win-win. Also, I should say, don't armor a tail. All right, I don't know why people do that. It may look good, but generally a large piece of metal attached to a tail, you're not going to be able to move your tail. It's just not going to happen. Plus, what are you protecting? You're not protecting much if you armor up a tail. I mean, if it's like a reptile and it had like a huge, thick, scaly tail, you're more likely to attach a razor blade to the edge of that thing and start whipping it around instead of giving it armor. Let's be honest here. So, refrain from armoring the tail. I mean, take consideration that there is a tail when you're designing the back of the armor, but there's no reason to armor the tail. Please don't do that. Alright, so I have the sketch down here. Oh, I need to work on the feet, because I can do that. Ha 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 ha! But no, speaking of the tail and other species, if you're working with kind of extravagant species, please keep in mind what that species would want for their tail, or for their armor. I'm certain that dragons and other like large winged beasts would want something for their wings. I'm assuming that stuff would be rather important to them. So they may actually have something along the upper edge of the wing to keep that stuff more secure and more safe. Or they may attach razor blades to it, because, you know, I don't know how some dragons work. Do you want razor blades on your wings? Sure, go for it. Go crazy. I'm going to segment this foot up a little bit, just because that seems like it would be more practical for armor on feet. And it's only going to be on the foot itself, not so much on the toes. Oh, what else do I have really to talk about at this stage? You can't see it on the other side. I'm going for very, very sparse armor. All things considered, I could go far more in depth. I could have stuff here. I could have stuff here. I could have a helmet. Grr. I could have gloves of some sort. I could even have a shield somewhere here. I don't know. I can just throw a shield in. And you can see he has this huge, huge sword that is thrown into the ground right now. Alright, I am going to do the line art on this real quick. There's not much I can talk about in terms of how to do the lines for this. It's just kind of like drawing clothing when it comes to lines, except you don't include the wrinkles. So I'm going to get back to you real soon. Give me one moment. And welcome back. So, I colored in everything, or at least did the flat colors for the whole thing, because it made sense in my mind. There's nothing that I could talk about in the coloring. But the one thing I can definitely talk about now is, what condition is the armor in? Another big question you have to ask yourself when you're designing this is, how old is it? Is it worn down? Is it weathered? I mean, I'm not going to make this one weathered because you click on this link if you want to see the video I did on how to do weathering techniques for metal and various items like that, which would do very well here. But is it well cared for? Did the owners of the armor, or does the maker of the armor know what they were doing? Things like that are all very important in just kind of how the armor is. I mean, if it's super, super rusted, chances are it's not going to be that useful, but, you know, if the person using it is good at their job, then it'll be in at least, you know, usable condition. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of adding in a paint style to it. I figure that this is royalty of some sort, or this is a high-ranking guardsman of some sort, so purple and yellow are very commonly referred to as royal colors, or, you know, fancy colors or something like that. So that's a good color combo to go with. And it just kind of, I figure it'd probably just be chevrons going across the body in some way, shape, or form. And notice I didn't segment this torso bit very much at all. Admittedly, I probably could have done something with the waist more, because that's going to be rotating around a lot. But I figure that this is functional as is. Should I put an arrow there? Nah, let's not make that an arrow. Let's just have that be the chevron as is. And then smaller triangle underneath it, because triangles. Let's see the whole thing here so we make this balance between the two sides. Come on, triangles. How do they work? Next tutorial, triangles. Triangles. How to triangle. 2 lines. No, wait, 3 lines. Already I messed up the tutorial. Oh no. Alright, I think that makes for a good symbol on the chest. And if, when it comes to armor, you want a general theme across the entire thing, if it's not hodgepodge together. So, since I did this upwards arrow, generally you'll find a lot more upwards arrows throughout the rest of the armor, because they will oftentimes paint them or design them to be, albeit within the same family. You know, all the armor was made by the same person, probably for the same person too. So it's going to be very similar feel across the entire thing. You wouldn't want, like, upper torso to be green and blues, and then the bottom torso to be just orange. That would look bad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to kind of chop off the bottom so that the bottoms are flat. Do-do-do-do. And of course, this is just kind of the coloring phase. There's a lot you could do. You could make the armor look like it's, oh, what was I trying to say? You could make the armor look like it's painted on. Not the armor painted on, but the armor is painted. Remember earlier when I said I couldn't speak today? I can't speak today. But another thing you can do is, say, if the person wielding their armor, it venerates war wounds, or say they embrace the idea that the armor is going to get dinged up a lot, they could actually not fix any minor wounds to it. So it would have dents in it, it would have scratches and pings on it, and nothing would be done to it. It's only the major issues that would be fixed. So you would have armor that is like bright, shiny, and new, but it's scuffed and it's damaged, and it can look really cool if you do something like that. Plus, you know, having enough war wounds on an armor can tell a story, especially if the person seems crazy. Well, not that it would add anything to the story, it's just, you know, crazy people. And of course I'm keeping the same general theme going. And the paint style, not so much the color, but the paint style matches the armor quite a bit, because all I really did for the design of the armor as it was being formed was just added points to it. And for this down here, I'm actually just going to make the middle one painted instead of doing the whole piece of armor, or the whole arrow thing. Why did I say piece of armor there? I don't know what I'm doing. Stuff happened. I had this thing to drink earlier. I was not messing with him well for a minute. Welcome to my tutorials, everybody. Half the time, I don't speak sense. That's a box quote. Alright, so as we zoom out, you can see that it looks a little bit better with a little bit more color added in like that. But the real thing that makes armor look good is really, really bright shading. And obviously, the way you go about that is, say, a layer above it. But the way that armor gets shaded is just brightest brights, darkest darks. If it's bright, new, and shiny, then that's going to be bright, new, and shiny. It's as simple as that. So you have this leg piece, which would just be, you know, straight bright along one edge, assuming that the light source is over here behind, not really behind his head, but in this general direction, then everything on this side would be lit up. And trying to keep in mind that the armor is curving, so that you still have the lights follow the curves. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. Just follow these 24 easy steps. And then this light thing. And the thing with armor is, because it's so bright, it will also have, like, not as darks of darks. So, say, this whole area probably wouldn't be filled in so much because, or wouldn't be so bright because it's kind of away. I would go through with this gray, but I would really brighten it. And the edges of it, I'll have to erase away. Because the light wraps around items. So, and especially an item this bright, as armor generally is made of highly reflective material compared to normal clothing, it will wrap around the armor really, really nicely. So you have to take that into consideration when you're shading something like this. So as I keep on going through and shading this in, man, I really wish I made this in a way that I could make it all weathered and worn, but I'm pretty certain none of you would really want to see that right now. Especially since I did a whole tutorial on that before. Man, I shouldn't have done that tutorial. I could have weathered so many things between then and now. Ugh, you guys got off lucky. So you have to be careful that none of your darks and highlights get near each other, as that just looks bad. That's about as straightforward as I can say that. And always making sure that the edges are bright. Basically, the only things that are going to be dark in this sense is going to be stuff in the middle. Not so much anything around the edges. And that's not just limited to like complete edges, it's also edges inside the armor, like these lines going back down. This bottom bit would have shading right there. Over here would have shading right here, and probably going up here. And since I have this little spike in the shadows here, it implies that this whole section points upwards, which it does. Now this area down here is going to be a little bit annoying to shade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the whole thing, and then I'm going to kind of bring in these side bits just a little bit. Not a whole lot. Wait, I have to say bits again. Not a whole bit. A whole lot of bit. Just a little bit. Give it a little bit. And there you have the armors all shaded. Of course, it's the cell style shaded, as I pointed out in a past tutorial, but that cell style shading really works well for this. If you want it to be more painterly style, the way you do it is you put down the lines, or you put down the colors for the shading, and you blur it all to heck, and then you take a eraser tool and set the opacity to, like, or the density or opacity of the eraser about halfway through, and you start going, oh, that's not the eraser, that's the, and then you kind of go through the edges and erase the edges like that, and you can still kind of get that small gradient going and still have it look really good for the end result. Speaking of end results, I'm going to wrap this drawing up, and I'll see you at the end, just to talk about final stuff. Be with you soon. And welcome back. So, I just kind of threw in a general garden background, you know, kind of against the wall, eyeing people who are walking through the royal garden. Although it really needs to be mowed a little bit. But looks like the gardener might be kind of mad at him because he stabbed a hole in the ground. But that issue will be resolved between them, and I won't have any part of it. So, as I put down my signature in the corner here, I will go through my normal end of the video stuff. If you enjoyed the video that you had seen here today, then, well, thank you for liking it. I'm not gonna have you, I put that in weird, I'm not gonna do the normal, you know, please like, favorite, subscribe thing, because, it's not all that important if you do or don't. If you genuinely like it, then you will like it. If you end up using the tutorial and you end up learning something that you made here, show me what you made. I'd love to see it. It always makes my day. My email and such will be at the end of the video. If you have any suggestions for future videos, then leave me a comment down below or email me. It will be at the end of the video. And have a wonderful day.